Okay, let's talk about milk. What if I told you that the world's biggest producer of this essential food is probably not who you think it is? We're about to dive into the incredible story of the Indian milk miracle. And trust me, it's a story that completely rewrites the rules of global agriculture.
You know, for centuries, people have called milk nature's most nearly perfect food. And it makes sense, right? It's just jam-packed with nutrients, it's a cornerstone of diets all over the world, and especially for huge vegetarian populations, it's an absolutely critical source of animal protein. So, with that in mind, who do you think makes the most of it? Maybe the United States with its giant farms? Or one of the big European dairy countries? Well, the real answer, it's gonna surprise you. Get this. What if I told you that just one country is responsible for a whopping 18% of all the milk produced in the entire world?
Yeah, you heard that right. Nearly a fifth of all the milk on Earth comes from a single nation. And the way they do it, it's nothing like you'd imagine. This story completely flips the script on what we think of as modern industrial farming.
All right, so to really get what's going on here, we've got to zoom out and look at the big picture first.
Okay, so when you think about the big dogs in the dairy world, you probably think of the major exporters, right? The countries with a huge milk surplus. We're talking places like New Zealand, the US, Germany. They produce so much milk, it's practically flooding the global market. But here's the key. Being a top exporter isn't the same thing as being the top producer. And that brings us to the real star of our show today. Believe it or not, the world's largest milk producer, is India. It's a fact that catches a lot of people off guard, but the country has quietly become the absolute, undisputed king of dairy. And we're not talking about a small lead here. The scale of this is just wow. India churns out over 164 million tons of milk every year. That absolutely dwarfs other giants like the USA and China. So you have to ask, right? It's not just what they're producing, but how on earth are they doing it? Well, the secret isn't what you think. The answer lies in a totally different way of thinking about dairy. This isn't a story about massive industrial megafarms. It's about a revolution, a small farm revolution. The whole system is built on this one core idea, the man-land-cattle ecosystem. It's a traditional, a symbiotic setup. Agriculture and livestock aren't treated as separate things. They're woven together. The cattle eat the leftovers from the crops, and in return, they give milk and even help with farm labor. And this contrast really gets to the heart of the story. In most developed countries, you've got these huge commercial farms, right? Specialized feed, high-yield animals, all propped up by a rock-solid cold chain for transport. But in India, it's the complete opposite. It's totally decentralized. We're talking tiny herds on small marginal farms. The animals are fed whatever's left from the crops. The infrastructure is much more limited. It's a low input, low output model that somehow works on an absolutely mind-boggling scale. And when I say the scale is massive, I am not kidding. This entire industry, the biggest in the world, is powered by an estimated 70 million small and marginal dairy farmers. So this isn't a story about a handful of big corporations. It's the story of millions and millions of families. But the story doesn't stop there. The impact of this system goes way, way beyond just putting milk on the breakfast table. Just think about the sheer economic power we're talking about here. Inside India's gigantic livestock sector, dairy alone makes up nearly 60% of its total value. I mean, after crops, it is the single most important piece of the entire agricultural economy. That's huge. And because it's so important, dairying has become this incredibly powerful engine for social change. There were these landmark programs like Operation Flood and the rise of farmer-owned co-ops, like the famous AMU, that have literally transformed the lives of millions in rural India. It gives them a steady income and really empowers whole communities. Okay, but this super unique decentralized model, it's not perfect. It's not without its challenges. And the road ahead has some pretty big hurdles. So while the total output is just massive, the productivity of each individual animal is actually pretty low. The system also really struggles with things like a weak cold chain, which makes it hard to stop milk from spoiling. There's a constant shortage of good quality feed, and production can swing wildly with the seasons. It's a complex puzzle to solve. And all of this really leaves us with one big central question. India's dairy miracle was built on the backs of 70 million small farmers. But as the world keeps demanding more efficiency, more sustainability, can this decentralized, traditional model really adapt and solve the massive challenges of tomorrow? It's a question that's going to define the future of milk, not just for India, but for all of us.